humans, welcome back. We are finally live again, and today's topic is how the hell did this site ever win an award? And welcome back to another episode where we still don't understand how this site could possibly win an award. So I'm so glad you're here. Let's just get started. Today we have 6 insane awards websites which are so insanely unbelievable that I don't know why they won an award. I don't know how, and it would be nice to get your perspective from the live chat on how these sites ever made it to the beauty that is Awwwards.com. Starting off with Ashfall Studio. So, with that said, let me just make my screen really big and myself really small, and hope with that we can get started. This is Ashfall Studio's complete site. We are a partner to those who reshape the world. That is their title. Right off the bat, there is a video in the background which is kind of funky, which is kind of funny. The whole color scheme is non-existent to me right now because you have grays and you have blacks and you have whites, but there aren't any set patterns on what colors we're actually working with. So I'm just really excited to see what happens in that department. With that said, we have a really nice animating logo, which is obviously nice to see. A lot of color, a lot of pop, really fun stuff. And then we have a bunch of links, all of which use the same exact effect when you hover over them, which is a good mark of consistency, because when you make something that has really good animation, good effects, good elements overall going on, it makes sense to want to have that over and over again in more than one place. And then you also have the option to talk and connect, and I love the fact that they have a basic call to action button present right off the top of the screen. It would have been better to have a little bit of a more highlight going over here, because when you have a list that is like 4 elements long, the most obvious thing for a user to do is go focus on that list, forget all about the call to action button. And in any web design at all, you want to focus on the call to action button because it is what's going to get you business, it is what is going to move things forward. With that said, let's see what happens on this site. So right off the bat, there is parallax scrolling, which is when elements take up different scroll speeds. The video and the text are kind of scrolling differently and kind of fading into the background, which is nice. And then you have this really nice animating first section going on. My first concern as soon as I see the site, and there are a bunch of concerns with today's sites, which is kind of why we named the stream the way we did. My first concern right off the bat is, what is this text? Because it's a lot, and in fact if you kind of select it with your cursor, that makes it kind of easier to read, because when you have a really white with a green gradient going on, that kind of a background, and then you have a light gray text, it's just difficult on a contrast basis. And I am still able to read it, but you're just making it difficult for either the colorblind or population with different sort of needs when it comes to colors, and this is just setting yourself up for failure in the long run when you're trying to target a lot of the audiences. So this seems like a shaky choice to me as far as color contrast is concerned. I know most people are going to say this is clear and this is visible, but if you can have the kind of selection that goes on where black select works and this kind of looks this good when you actually select the text, I don't see why you wouldn't want that when you're working with a whole bunch of text. And also a genuine concern that comes in is, when this text takes up so much space, when this text is really large and taking up a ton of space, and you don't highlight the important parts. You could have highlighted words like AI startups, which would genuinely show your expertise in the topic. When you don't really highlight the words that need highlighting, now you're putting yourself at a risk of people not reading the entire thing, because it gets overwhelming to read a lot of text really fast from the point of view of a user. On the flip side, there are a couple of good things that they've done which we have to appreciate. The white space absolutely works. There is a lot of white space going in and around the screen. This is white space or negative space, the space where you don't really position anything, and that is nice to see. But with that said, I will say the way this has been positioned is kind of weird. The way it just works is kind of difficult to watch, because on the one hand there is text and there is white space and they're ensuring the consistency of font sizes over here and here, and on the other hand the text that is present is not very easy on the eyes or on the brain either. So with that said, let's go to the next section, which is featured work projects. Again, they split the screen, but they add a little bit of padding on this side, which kind of looks weird, because now you have a screen. You users don't usually visualize this screen in this kind of a fashion, which is what I'm hoping they were intending it to be. A little bit of padding on the top, then padding on the right side. But this isn't even split screen at this point. It just looks really, really weird. I mean, you can hover over it and things start to happen, but even that isn't described anywhere. And you can let this whole thing of you can hover over this and let and forget about it and not tell anyone that you have to hover over this image, and then it'll actually do something. You can do that, and you can get away with it, but only when the rest of the navigation is working proper. Now you have a place where you're kind of splitting the screen in a 40-60 basis. This isn't 50-50, don't get me wrong. This is not 50-50. You're kind of splitting your screen in 40 and 60, and then you're having a little bit of padding on this side. No one knows what's going on, and this is what's just freaking me out, because is it flashy? Yes. Is it fancy? Probably. Is it even usable? No. And I say this because this is the kind of sites that just throw off the misconception to absolutely everyone watching, that when you have a fancy site, when you have a site that goes to awwwards.com, that definitely becomes unusable. That becomes really hard on accessibility and actual use, which is not the case. But for sites like these to go to awwwards.com just because they're fancy, and yet normal use case scenarios are just thrown out the window, that just reinforces that whole belief over and over again. And then the sites that actually put in the effort to be accessible, to be usable, and to look pretty, that kind of gets like thrown off the picture. So this is what's freaking me out, that on a physical basis this site could be grouped together as an award site, but it's not cutting all of the check boxes for me for even being a good site or an accessible site or a very usable site. Right off the bat you see a ton of red flags that just make you think, should this even be here? And this is exactly what's freaking me out. Should this even be here? With that said, you have a little bit of a description going, a little bit of tags going, which when you hover over, interestingly, when you hover over these tags, you actually start to see black color going on. But my concern once again becomes, when you have to hover over something and you don't even have indicators of you need to hover over something, and then when you hover over something and it that is when the color actually becomes good, then I'm just having a really hard time adjusting to the whole gray on a green and white gradient. It's just not working for me for some reason, and I have a gut feeling it won't work for most people as well. But also, very, very interesting gossip again, when a person designed a site with a tag like this, when you actually hovered over it and it actually gave you sort of a black plain font color and border color and everything, that means the creator of the site actually got to see what the text would look like plain black, right? That's like the most basic thing that can happen. Like, you could argue that in Webflow and in some sites text comes out gray, but when you actually create a hover effect that's actually black, you couldn't have possibly mistaken it. But now you have mistaken it, and now you're left with, after the hover effect is done, you knew the hover effect, you knew it would be black when you actually hovered over it, and you knew the difference between having this tag look black and this tag look gray, and then you still chose to go with gray for the proper part, for the most part, without the hover part. And there was no description for either the image, which I think was a big fail, or the text for the need to even hover it. I think that's just running in circles, and that sounds stupid because it is stupid. And as these words are coming out of my mouth, I realize it sounds really weird and stupid because it's kind of stupid. It's practically stupid. It's just the way it is. With that said, a super cool plus kind of hijacks your cursor, but you can't click on it when you hover over this image, which is just throwing me off, because what is that icon even supposed to mean? Were you trying to be fancy? I don't get it. Maybe you're trying to show that you can take us to this link. Maybe that's the one, but you could have added sort of a link or an arrow. This plus is usually used to expand a menu, which seems like the most basic rule of icons to me, but at this point, what are you going to say? Again, you have another project which basically flips the entire script we had for the first one, and you have the 60/40 split screen with a weird padding of 10% going on here for some reason, which I'm not even sure what's going on at this point, it's what's driving me insane. And you also, while all of this is happening, the funny part is you also have this title and this navigation bar, this weird vertical navigation bar, which is aesthetic, I get the point. You don't have white padding going on in the background, and it still continues to be with us even while we're scrolling, even through these weird grays, which is just not seeming very professional. Like, you could have added a white padding. Many sites do this. In the first hero section, your links are basically gray, and when you actually start going to the next sections, when this actually becomes a sticky header proper, then you have a white background going on for this border, for the top navigation bar. But even that doesn't happen, so this it just clashes a bunch of times with these gray elements. So if this was where I had stopped the screen and I was actually figuring something out, it would be difficult for me to just figure out why this is going on in the ideas, especially when it was not previously made clear to me that the header would be sticky. So these are just very, very minimum points that will just throw off your user experience 1% at a time, and when you repeat it enough number of times, you actually end up with a really, really low number of percentage, if that's the way we're counting user experience. With that said, now we go off to the next section, which is this one, and it's just basically almost a full overlay of the entire video, and it's kind of playing when you hover over it. I feel at this point it would be difficult not to hover over your elements, but also if someone was in one of these corners and there was no description of you needing to hover over something, and people were just in a corner with their cursor and not scrolling, then it would make things really, really weird, if you know what I mean. It just would make things extremely awkward as far as that is concerned. With that said, you can also show more work, but did you guys see when you hovered over the show more work, the green highlight was similar to the green in the background, so it was basically not readable. Like, this is just minor, taking user experience away 1% at a time until you're left with 0%. And this is exactly how you go in the negatives of user experience. This is just really awkward to me. Once again, I'm just going to shut up entirely about the entire project section being wrong in my eyes. I'm just going to shut up about it because we've seen me talk about it a bunch of times, and it's just not charming anymore. With that said, we're going to the project section. It's still going on. You see a bunch of projects which I want to escape at this point because I have no idea why I'm even here. I'm going back to home because there were some things at the bottom of it. We've seen these sections already, so you can rewind the video if you want. Again, we have a nice marquee tag going which shows all of the different brands that they've worked with, which is nice. Builds trust. Why would you not have it? You should absolutely have it. As this section is actually going on, I also want to talk about why is there a weird grey horizontal line going over here. I guess it is two separate sections, but it's been shown to me on multiple occasions, and in some contexts it absolutely does not work. Like, check it out. Over here, it's difficult for me to figure out why you would leave this amount of space open for Global Creative and Technology Studio, not have anything going on over here, and then separate the section. It would have been easier for me to digest if this line wasn't present. I would have taken this entire space as white space. It's just putting this even thought out there. With that said, now we're going over to the next section, and did you guys notice the fact that they have hijacked the cursor to a point where the green in the background gets changed into this really, really nice fabric of white? And also, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing this is sort of split into 1/4 and 3/4 for some weird reason, which has definitely got to be a glitch. The gradient that's goes from light green to white over here, and then light green to white over here, but this is like 1/4 of the screen, and this is 3/4 of the screen, which is extremely not making sense. So I'm just freaking out over everything and the way things are structured here. Once again, they have repeated the same mistake again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just calling it a mistake because let me see the logic in this. I don't see logic. I don't see reason. Once again, you have a huge sentence going on, which is actually much better when you actually select this text because it changes to white. And it does give me more peace in my heart. And this is me selecting the text, by the way, because the select is black in the background, white in the front. When you select the text, is kind of looking like this, which would have been more awesome. And at this point, I would take them switching their grays. This gray, by the way, and I guess the point of this entire color scheme was keeping one gray similar for the text on white and the text on black. So I feel like the only reason they had to use this gray was when you have text on white versus when you have text on black. In both of those cases, the same exact gray works, which is a giant mistake. I would have much rather preferred them using plain blacks over here and then and plain whites over here, it would have been satisfying to the eyes, and it was this close, and it just threw off the whole user experience, just in a weird conquest of using the same exact shade of grey on their blacks and on their whites. This is where consistency goes too far into the realm of madness. With that said, you also had another structure, and I always say this: when you have a good section going, repeat it over and over again to build consistency, to build recognition for your brand, for your landing page. With that said, I have to mention over here, when you have this section with the title but you have a weird horizontal line which has no meaning whatsoever, I was hoping content would load, but it didn't, so I'm just going to accept it the way it is. And then you have this text going on. This seems like a flawed section, right? In a layman's eyes, it seems like a flawed section. And then you go ahead, change the background color, giving us another load of this exact section, and this is what's pissing me off. You have another horizontal line, and then you have more white space, and you're repeating the same mistakes over and over again. This is exhausting, having you repeat the same mistakes over and over again. I swear to God, we're not even done with this site, and I'm going to be having a review out of 10 for this. So what do you guys think we should rate the site out of 10? I am not happy. I'm going to have to invent a number just to go as low as they're going, and they eroded the user experience one by one. Like, if you gave ratings out of 10, they took 1 point at a time, to the point where this is excruciating. With that said, when you start scrolling the next section, which is join us, and I have no idea why you would write the words join us, embed it inside of an image, embed that image inside of a section, and then when you hover over it, it actually sort of zooms in. This is so weird, you guys. Like, I wouldn't even pay attention to that, and if I didn't care about the image, it just wouldn't happen. Also, where are our concerns for color contrasts going? Because on that grey of the mountain, you're writing plain white text, which is horrible for contrast, and I'm pretty sure the contrast detectors on major browsers like Google and Firefox can't even detect it. Every browser at this point in 2025 has a color detector kind of built in, color contrast accessibility detector, which uses WCAG guidelines to check if a background color and the text on top have a kind of rating where the both of those numbers are actually accessible and visible, even to those with not perfect vision, even to those with many forms of color blindness. And it's steps to make the web accessible for everyone, and you have to take those into consideration. Now, when you take text, put it using a tool like Photoshop on an image, and then put that image using a couple of special hover effects too on an actual site, that text is no longer selectable, no longer a part of your actual website. It is a part of the image. It is not detectable by the browser or by the cursor, but you're still typing the words join us. It is not a project. This is their actual kind of guide to join us. It's just getting exhausting at this point. And while I'm saying this, I just noticed, because this is an excruciating site, while I'm saying this, I just noticed they're typing the words brand identity over here, which is so insanely small, I didn't even notice it. So half my review was either on the fact that they built a complete site just to say join us, or this is their actual join us section, both of which seem like bad results to me. Just excruciating and horrible. When you start to scroll, now you get these other screens kind of pop up. This is a nice slider, the whole effect that goes on where the previous screen sort of becomes smaller, fades away, is actually kind of nice. But it's the only nice thing about this site. Like, this is the only good thing going on, which is kind of innovative, kind of nice. I don't see many other reasons to even give them good points at this point. You can explore their approach, which is kind of nice. Again, the grey pisses me off. Once again, you have this grey which could have worked for both white and black, and you chose to put it in both of those places. You could have put the text that was on black screens white and on white screens black by using this grey everywhere. I'm pretty sure you've broken all the guides and all the rules and all the accessibility ratings there were, which is horrible. You can't just make a pretty site and words away without any worry on what the brand is actually supposed to do. It's just the way things work. It's just the way things work. Like, I'm not the bad one for saying this. With that said, awards and recognition. Do I start talking? Joy, have I just scrolled and I have things to say. Awards are a byproduct. I don't have a personal grudge for anyone thinking. I don't have a personal grudge towards Asphalt Studio, and yet I have to say this because I'm already going grrr in my brain. Awards are a byproduct, not the goal. Firstly, this text is grey over white, which I've already stated. Secondly, there is no highlights into any text at all. Thirdly, why would you put a quote that is separate from your actual brand statement? Let me just clarify at this point. The text that I've selected is this one, and then you have other text that's going over here. You should have separated the two of these elements simply because they do not belong together in the world of copywriting. Let me just clarify what I mean by that. Awards are a byproduct, not the goal. This is a quote. This is something you say before you're about to tell the world about your awards and achievements, which is fine, which is a personal choice, which is fine. And then you have another sentence which talks about you relating to awards. These are two separate topics. Why do I have to go to this level? But I'm still going to this level. We focus on creating work that goes beyond aesthetics, transcends trends, and makes an enduring impact. I feel like on some level, awards are a byproduct, not a goal, is kind of a quote which could have been separate. And when you imagine a world where the first line is separate from the last two lines, doesn't this look much better? Because the first line is talking about a quote, and then the other line is talking about where you stand vis-a-vis awards. Don't the two of those look better? Please, in the audience, could you just say yes or no in the live chat? Just give me a little bit of corroboration on this one. Like, you could have had a much easier time if you had just separated the two and changed the font sizes, maybe change the font colors, maybe, but then maybe that's just visual thinking on my part. Let's just see what their awards are, because I find it really hard to read any of this text at all. Not because I'm blind, but because it's not structured in a way that even lets me want to read. I could see all of the text and ignore it all. Like, I don't even want to read it at this point. You have a bunch of awards. Firstly, can I just say the fact, awards, 7x honorable mention, 4x sight of the day, so many awesome awards, you guys, making me jealous all the way. If you had found a way through winning all of these awards, if you had found a way, you won all of the awards that you possibly could have, if you had found a way to put them in nice cards, or maybe make them a little bit prettier, maybe you could have impressed the designers. But when you win awards on this number of a level, 7 times honorable mention, 4 times sight of the day, 5 times website of the day, 6 times innovation honorary, when you win sites in this number and in this scale, you have to show it off. This seems to be a really small, little weird way of mentioning things, and it's not even looking pretty, and it's not even looking impressive, even though I know from this world this is quite an impressive portfolio. Like, this could have been presented well. Could have put it in cards, maybe presented a couple of links, maybe made the numbers and the text actually of a little bit of a different color and size. And also on a more gremlin level of thinking, if the person who wins all of these awards gets away with designing sites like these using the same gray on the whites and the blacks and then not highlighting any important text at all, if the person in charge of this makes all of this madness on one single site and still gets all of this huge portfolio of an awards on all of their sites, I think you and I have a very good chance of winning, and the only thing that's left for us is to just try. Like, I guess that sounds mean and cruel and bad, but if someone can make sites like these and still win all of these awards, I'm pretty sure many people watching today, and also me, have a higher chance than we expected, and maybe all of these awards are a little bit more glamorized than we thought. Like, if this is the kind of site that's making it through all of these awards multiple times, why are we not trying at this point? Like, we should. With that said, lab is where we break new ground, and then now they have a lab which has this weird circly slider, and I would want to see what's going on over here, except this slider is in a little bit of a parallax. I do want to explore what's going on, so let me just see what's going on. More stuff for us to roast. You have this continuous slider that's kind of working, is kind of a whirlpool, so it's difficult for me to understand what project does what. So I'm just going to just click on any one of these. With that said, not very impressive in the way they've kind of given us the things. This is a boring way of describing an otherwise amazing looking site, and if this is all the visual you're getting, it's underwhelming, you guys. It's just underwhelming, and you're not even the bad thing with this whirlpool like structure is, even though it looks like a 3D tornado, even though it scrolls and rotates funny, you can't see a single one of these sites properly. Like, you can't see a single one of them. You can't literally focus on a single image. All of these are grayscaled, all of these are kind of reminded, and you have all of these projects. To me, it's such a shame that you have all of this going, and the way you're presenting things, like this is like the smallest, most weirdest description. You could have added a proper YouTube video describing what we were doing, and that would have been much more fun. Like, this is the most underwhelming way of doing things in the whole wide world. It's kind of exhausting and very underwhelming. Like, you could have presented this much more beautifully, and that's just what I'm going to leave this for today. And you also have this weird sticky header following you everywhere, but you're not able to see it in the middle of the grays, so that's also a bad thing. It's underwhelming, absolutely underwhelming. Then you also get this let's start a conversation that turns ambition to action weird footer. It's very lengthy, but I could live with lengthy. I just don't like the structure, and this may be me talking after seeing a whole weird site go on, but I just don't like the structure where you have this space and you're putting in the underline. Usually you put the title, then you put the text, and then you end the section. You're putting the title, ending the section, then putting in the text. It's just so weird. It's especially when you had a call to action. This line was completely useless. It could have been taken out, could have saved confusion, shortened the war by 5 years, and saved multiple lives. This just seems like the most useless line ever. And then this could have used a couple of, maybe instead of this same exact icon over and over again, maybe the animated thing could have been the actual logo of these brands. So I think this is the most like underwhelming site I've ever seen. I do want to know what you guys rate this out of 10. For me, it's just going to be -2, because there was another site yesterday that we raised, like we kind of rated -1. It was very brutalistic and just had the things and the concepts all wrong, but this is just a little bit lower than that, and I'm trying not to go into the minus numbers territory out of 10, but this has to be a -2 out of 10. I am really sorry, Ashfall Studios. There is more than enough reason for me to be underwhelmed over here. Like, all of the right answers were right in front of you, and you chose to ignore them, and I it just breaks my heart this way. But with that said, that has to be kept aside for the second site of today, which is Telefonica Centenary. I have no idea what this is going to be like. Telefonica100.com. Let's get started. It's still loading, which is kind of scary, but check it out. This is beautiful. 100 years to imagine. Start the journey. First of all, very beautiful. Everything that's going on over here. I am in love. Everything that's going on over here, absolutely beautiful. I am very, very intrigued as to what's going to happen. You have got a couple of 3D elements which you can actually work with a cursor, which is incredibly awesome. Let's start the journey. I have no idea what's going to happen, you guys. No idea. 1924. See this year. We've got some audio, which unfortunately I don't think I can stream. With that said, 1924. The whole animation that happens when you kind of hover over it, when you scroll over it, is absolutely awesome. So I'm just putting this out there. The year it all began, Spain was embracing the arrival of air transport and metro and football as we know it. Again, you could have highlighted a couple of important words. This gets boring and drudgy really, really quickly, but I'm going to read it still. The birth of Compañía Telefónica Nacional de España coincided with the timid but inexorable modernization of the country. Alright, this is good. This is just good stuff. Especially with the animation on top. It keeps things fresh, keeps things lively, keeps you interested in the whole entire story. And then you have the adventure beginning. This is again very, very boring text. Could you please highlight the important parts? Please, God. And then you have an image and a couple of these elements. That's just the way it is. Simple elements. With that said, I have to underline the fact that you have these horizontal lines going, even though they're very subtle. You have horizontal lines on the top and bottom of this section, which were also present on the last site, but they did it in the most wrong fashion ever. The first chairman, and then you have a little bit of those details. Again, this section I know isn't the most fancy section. Anyone could make it, and yet it's good. It has no major flaws. Like, you could have maybe done the text a little bit more justice, but other than that, I don't see many problems. You must accept all cookies to see this content. I'm just, for the sake of this stream, going to accept cookies. Now you have an actual video playing, which is nice for the integrated experience. I can't possibly play a YouTube video inside of a YouTube video, so I'm just going to leave it out. This is the archive, and the way they've structured it is actually kind of beautiful. Like, you could go on any of these images and it would actually look kind of nice as far as the gallery is concerned. You can sort of zoom into this image, but I'm not going to do that. I think you can. Yes, you can zoom into this image, which is a nice effect to have. We're going to close out of this, and now we see this entire gallery, which is a little bit offset, even though it has 6 different columns. Again, I love the way they've structured the grid. It's actually a little bit unique, asymmetrical, and actually adds a little bit of depth and fun to it. That was unexpected. The nice thing with asymmetry is, on sites, if you can get asymmetry to work with you, work for you, then you end up with a very interesting example that no one has ever seen before. That's kind of really unexpected, and it just looks incredible, you guys. This is the prime example of that. Explore the archive if you want to, and then you have 1925. Do you have doubts about what happened? You can ask Aura, which I hope is an AI assistant. No idea what it is. I think it is an AI assistant. Hi, I'm Aura. Get to know the history of Telefonica by asking me questions. I'm not going to do that because I am pretty sure, yes, it does use generative AI and its results might be inaccurate. And I think you could have any normal conversation here as well, although please don't spam it. With that said, let's go to the next section. I am curious to see what happened before all of this. Let's just go back. How do we even go back? You have the timeline with you. Let's see what happens when we click on the timeline. Alright, the next sections. What are the next sections? 1925. You can see all of these years, and I'm pretty sure they're going to be similar to what we just saw, but this kind of keeps on going, and you can see the individual years as well, which is again impeccable effort. I love the way they're changing the years. I love the way we're kind of going into this. By the way, you guys, for the UI UX designers in the room, they're not actually animating this text. This text stays stagnant. These 3D elements, which are actually workable with your mouse, are basically becoming bigger and disappearing, or becoming bigger and going to the lefts and rights, and basically changing their positions on the screen. So we're not actually going inside. This is a common visual weird effect. They're actually just kind of zooming in and taking different positions. So when you start to scroll inside, this image will now become much bigger and go over in this direction, kind of becoming bigger in space, taking its entire area. So with that said, let's keep on scrolling. We're scrolling forward, going up to 1938. We need to go till 2025, I think, and we're going to keep on going, although it might have been 2024 because this site is a little bit older than this specific year. With that said, I love the fact that they're actually changing colors. So we went from a really dark shade of blue to, I think it's going to go up to the light blue section of the hero section that we kind of thought we were going to see. Did something go down? Wow, I lost an icon in the studio. This is incredible. Nice fail happening live on stream. Could someone click that picture and make a meme out of it? I think it's very meme material. With that said, we're kind of zooming in, going forward, and still going forward. This is kind of scary and kind of exhausting. I think you could use this timeline, although check out this shade of blue. It's beautiful. You could speed up with this timeline, which might have been nice to know before. And boom, we're at 2020. Wow, we went to future. I don't think we should have gone up to the future. 2024 was, I think, where we were supposed to stop. Check it out. What was that? What was that? We were at 2024, which was actually beautiful. You could have seen this year. But for some reason, we can also go to 2124 and we can create a prediction, which I am very interested in. How the hell are you going to predict the future? I have no idea. This is another 100 years forward. What do you expect in 2024? Success! Wow, I have no idea what's going on here, and I'm kind of excited to see. We share your predictions. Explore some predictions that users have sent to us so we can share it on our wall. People will be able to talk to animals using technology is a prediction. I would love that. I would want to talk to animals so much. We will have capsules to store things. And also a bunch of, again, this is similar to the last gallery we saw in the 1924 section, which was just 6 grids but really asymmetrical and added a little bit of fun to it. I think this is the same exact grid. They've just changed the images. The positioning hasn't even changed, but even if it has, it's kind of following the same pattern. And again, the basic most rule of AI comes, the basic most rule of UI comes in. If you create a component that you're really happy with, it's original, it's new, it's something that people haven't seen before, it makes good sense to keep on using it more than once, over and over again in your site, because that adds a level of consistency that you wouldn't usually find anywhere else. It makes the entire user interface familiar, and it makes your UI a little bit better, if that makes any sense at all. So with that said, they're doing a good job. You can search predictions, live on Mars. I'm wanting to see what happens when you search for predictions. Let's see what happens. I have no idea. You can search for actual predictions. So I feel like this is the extent of a temporal capsule. I believe it's just talking and timelines, and it's for some reason celebrating 100 years, your years and milestones, and you can just do a bunch of cool time related things with it. I have to give it a solid 9 out of 10 because it's near perfect. I would have wanted to see a couple more effects to be added at the end of it all, like a couple of finishing touches. This blue is kind of harsh, and I do want to see the text that was present as paragraphs be a little bit more highlighted, be a little bit easier to read, because when you have chunks of text going over and over again, it's becoming really, really difficult to read the stuff you want to read. With that said, let's just click on one of these years because I want to see what actually happens. So you can't click on the years which were... Actually, you can click on all of them. Let's just click on one of these years. These are the most relevant events in the history of Telefonica. So they are counting the history of Telefonica, which is a brand that's 100 years old now. Again, very, very cool. You can go up to 2004 and leading operators in Latin America. Wow. With that said, can we just take a moment to acknowledge the way the slider is going? It's taking this entire horizontal carousel route while you're scrolling vertically. The entire UI is going horizontally, which is kind of awesome. It's a little bit jankier than I expected, a little bit jankier than what's going on the web, but overall not the worst thing in the world. And again, jankiness is what lets me give it a 9 out of 10. Very, very close to perfect. Really, really happy with the way the site looks, and you also have a really, really nice footer that's doing a bunch of things. I love the way this looks. And it has a bunch of really, really cool elements. I am a little bit sad that the whole color scheme was very constricted to 4 shades of blue, like 2 shades of blue in total, and then maybe black and white. In fact, it's only white and like 3 shades of blue. So it's a restrictive color scheme, don't get me wrong. 9 out of 10 is what I have to say at this point. With that said, let's go to the next site, which is going to be Sonar Music. I have no idea what this is going to be like. I don't really see these sites before they come in. sonarmusic.com.australia, a music and sound studio. The sound of Sonar Music. Right out the bat, a bunch of things to see. Firstly, you have a nice navigation bar with the logo, with this weird icon. I have no idea what this bento grid does, and you also have this navigation bar. And again, can I just say that this navigation bar looks really, really cool. You have all of these different icons available, and when you hover over them, it changes the colors. And you also have your social media, and this animation is going, and then you also have your really, really nice logo going over here. Again, over and over, a lot of white space, nice structure, good asymmetrical navigation bar. Like it's fun, it's new, it's innovative. With that said, the font size that they used and the font format that they used for this font is very, very similar to what they used over here, which is what adds to a level of consistency. I do want to see what the hell this does, but I'm not entirely sure right now. Let's see what this is about. Film, advertising, television, documentary, sonic branding. Again, love the way they structured this bento grid. It's absolutely beautiful. And has no doubts whatsoever. I would like to point out a cool part of their branding is that they use borders, but they don't use plain borders, they use dotted borders, which is a fun thing you can do even in Figma while you're prototyping, and it adds to a level of branding detail which is just present absolutely everywhere. When you hover over something, it kind of becomes bigger, which is incredibly awesome, and you can just go ahead and explore all of these. Again, a huge chunk of text, maybe they could have broken down a little bit better, but other than that, I don't really see much that's wrong with it. In fact, I am in love with the way they've structured the bento grid. In fact, the grid changes its form, so it goes from taking 1/5 of the screen space to 3/5 of the screen space as soon as you hover over it, which is incredibly awesome. With that said, work, marquee tag going, which actually looks really, really nice. This is the different things that they've worked on. Again, they're using a bento grid for the major structure of the site, which is videos and images, but also text where it needs to be text. And I love the way they've structured this entire thing. And this text is using a really, really cool effect that I've wanted to talk about for such a long time, and I'm finally getting the opportunity to. You have a huge font going, and then to highlight the small words, to have it be a little bit of a finishing touch. You add smaller, even more intricate, nice looking, kind of italicized text going over here, which makes these words even more highlighted and gives the non-important words a nice aesthetic. So I love the way they've structured the text. Over and over, you have one other sort of marquee tag going, and I would want to point out the way they structured the last section is kind of really nice, and so they've repeated that whole structure over and over again. Another great example of when you make a great section, repeat it over and over again for consistency on the same site wherever you can find it relevant. They rely on a bento grid for this site, and it's really shaping up for me. It truly is shaping up for me. With that said, this is a standard bento grid, works really well. And now you are finally reaching the footer. This footer is very similar to the way the navigation bar was, in terms of this sonar logo being really nice over here, and then you also have this slider animation going. You have your credits, they're really nice. It's kind of difficult to see the privacy and cookie and terms, but that will work even if you're not making it the main primary front runner of your site. And then you also have these other links you can work with, which is basically taking you back to those exact same elements. Check it out, they have a dedicated work page, you guys, and you can filter out the kind of work you want to do using these formats. I love the way they structured this page. Like, this is a very plain, very simple, bold, in your face fonts right in front of you, black and white with a ton of white space front page, and I love it. Like, you could just reuse this over and over again. It's kind of perfect, and the whole bento grid vibe for consistency is repeated over and over again, which is also really nice. What do you guys think we should rate this out of 10? Like, what do you guys think? Because I think we should give this a perfect 10 out of 10, because I don't really see much that's wrong with it. It takes a color scheme, works with it, takes fonts and works with it. Nothing gets too sad, nothing gets too bad, nothing gets to a point where you actually have to feel that this isn't up to the mark. So I feel like this is good use of everything on its own. So I'm just going to give this a 10 out of 10, because there aren't many more ways you could have improved it. Even like this is near perfect at this point in 2025. Next site that we are going to is called uncommonstudio.com.australia, another site from the beautiful island of Australia. This was also the site that was in today's thumbnail, so you might recognize it. With that said, this is the most chaotic site in the whole damn world. How the hell did this site ever make it to Awwwards.com is the question. How did this site make it to Awwwards.com, you guys? I still don't know. With that said, you have a bunch of videos in the background, and then you have text that's basically sometimes changing color to be opposite of what's in the background, and it's just doing weird stuff now. And you have text let me just say this. Let me just stop all of the noise for a second and just say this. When you have text in the front of a screen like you do right now, you stay away from putting videos in the background which also have text, or images in the background which also have text. You can put images or videos in the background, don't get me wrong, it's a great strategy, but when you have text at the top, you don't put text at the bottom. Like, you don't put text in the video. It gets confusing real fast, and it makes things really weird really quickly. We designed for impact, see for yourself. Let's keep on going. Again, this is shaping up to be nice. This looks really pretty. Mel 233, not entirely sure if this is the time zone or what this is. In fact, this is Melbourne and the time zone. I should have figured this out quicker. This is Melbourne. In fact, it might be easier for people from other places if you just mentioned Melbourne, Australia, and mentioned the current time, because this seems like a weird, I don't know, homage to Mel Robbins or something. This, like, there is a ton of things that could be confused with the word Mel, so I am a little bit disappointed in that. But with that said, when you scroll, everything remains sticky, and you have this image and this text that kind of comes up, and it's really nice in the way they've structured things. Like, you could view it entirely, and I love the way they've structured this entire thing. Love this even more. I love the way they've structured things. The only place I truly had enough area to complain was the hero, where they tried to get things right and it became chaotic really fast. But with that said, this card menu with the whole animated icons and UI UX design and things that they're doing it's just really awesome, and it's kind of nice. Then you have all of these different elements that you can work with. You can make them smaller or bigger and see actual visual feedback on what this actually is. Diverse brilliance, design with brains, specialist minds. I think that they're getting most stuff right, and also you have more details as well. You have this text that's kind of scrolling in as you scroll, and you also have the ability to book a 15-minute call, which is quick, which is nice, which is easy, and you also have important text highlighted. So I don't see many things wrong with it. I would want to point out over here, when you scroll with some text, you also have other text which is basically the opposite color. Take the opposite color. So for example, the text color here was black, but when you came to a black screen, even if it was half the way in, you still had the text color over here changed to white for the area where you had black working with you. So I think that's a really nice effect to have. And yes, this is an effect that they had to put in because it doesn't come built in that way. Even over here, when you have these instances where things get cut off, you have this color be exactly opposite of what's in the background, which is achieved by changing the color to an invert filter, which you can do in Figma, by the way. You can do in Framework, you can do in web development, you can do everywhere, but it's a cool feature to have. This is a simple footer, nothing much to say about that. But with that said, this is a really nice example of a really nice site. Again, a little bit chaotic over here, but overall I give the Uncommon Studio site an 8 out of 10, simply because this header had its issues, but then they really made up for it quickly with the rest of the site. What do you guys think we should rate this site? Do you guys think we should give it a higher number or lower number? I am open to feedback in the live chat. Hello everyone, welcome back. The next site that we're going to review today, ladies and gentlemen, is actually so simple in its majority of its layout. From the first view, it's so simple that it makes me doubt why it even reached awwwards.com in the first place. So that's the major ruling question for today. This next site is Zaptec, and it provides charging solutions. It has a 50-50 grid split up along with videos in the background, which is a hybrid of splitting in the background and also videos in the background. So I love the way they structured this. It looks kind of beautiful. This is like the simplest navigation bar. We've seen this 100 times, so it just has all of the major elements, but you also have this huge text present over here. It might have looked a little bit better if you had made this all caps, but even if you haven't, it kind of looks fine. You have a ton of good things going on this site as soon as you enter over it. Firstly, there is font hierarchy, which is nice. This gets a little too small, but we're just going to ignore that. There is font hierarchy, which is nice. There is white space, which is nice. There is padding, which is nice, and it's equal in matters which is also nice. This wasn't the case in Asphalt Studios site, which was also what was annoying me a little bit. Again, they do their major things, they do common things, but they just get it right, which, for example, some sites didn't. You can explore their chargers, and you can also change these colors, which is incredibly awesome. I love when sites give you the ability to do this. It would have been nicer to see like the font sizes just be a little bit bigger on this one, but other than that, I don't think there is much room to complain. The font size does get a little too small, which is just me being honest. And you can change these models as well, which is also kind of awesome. And you can change these names and go to the product and see the latest news and have a grid of bento elements sort of just exist over here, which is also kind of nice. And with that said, a product of the rugged Norwegian West Coast. Again, as soon as you go over it, it kind of scrolls up, becomes bigger, takes up all of the space it needs to, scrolls in its own speed, and then you get the most basic footer ever. Although this footer takes an entire whole screen space, takes up its white space, gets all of its elements right. The fonts aren't fancy. This is the most basic font type in the whole world. Like, you could have gone with a little bit of a fancier font, a little bit of an edgier font, but the fonts aren't fancy, but you get your major white space and your font hierarchy and principles right. The only two concerns I had with this site is there was a really small font in the body text, and also these fonts weren't edgy or anything. It's like the plainest thing in the whole wide world. You could have made these elements capital, but you didn't, which is also fine. Maybe you could have made this have a background shadow just to keep things clearly and even more visible when you are working with like a white background. Like, you could have done a couple of basic things. And there is a lack of innovation in the way things are structured, especially in the current awwwards.com sites kind of market. With that said, I will give this site a 7 out of 10 because it gets all of the things right, but also there are tiny little 2 or 3 flaws which might need a little bit of a fixing, and it's just getting there yet. Like, it's really close to a perfect site. It gets kind of quite close. With that said, let's just go back to the sixth site of the day, and we have normally joining us. Did the background change? Maybe it did. A couple of things fell off, which is incredibly awesome news for me because I get to change it up after this stream is over. So, studios change all the time. Welcome back to the stream. We are reviewing incredible sites which we have no idea how they made to Awwwards.com in the first place. With that said, we have Mikkelberger's Fountain of Youth. Let's enter this experience. I have no idea what this is going to be like, but I'm just hoping it is good and well. Wow, this is like a 3D site. It's so weird. I have questions on how it made it to Awwwards.com in the first place. This looks like a very funky example of a game, which I have no idea why it's this way. So weird. You have words of wisdom, and then you have all of this going on right here. Seems like a game. Let's just play this game. I don't have much to say before the game actually starts. What the hell do you do with this game? This is already freaking me out. I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, which is why no idea what's going on. You have 6 hotspots. You can do your magic on it. I don't know what the site is about yet. Like, I'm still wondering, left questioning. Gemini Man 3D said, why are you teaching? You should go and learn first. Why don't you teach me, Gemini Man 3D? That would be awesome. Don't say sorry. I have no use of sorry or your feedback for that matter. With that said, let's just go back. I have no idea what this game actually does. We will find out as a team together. Wow, this is so weird. Oh my god, what's going on at this point? Like, I get the art, I get the use of 3D, but I have no idea what's going on at this point. This is so weird. Train your mind. This text came in for the littlest of time and then it just went away. Are we supposed to click on it? I think we are. Train your mind. What's going on over here? Hydration, nutrition. Again, I can't read this huge chunk of text because you have not highlighted the right amount of things. And the font just goes to the most basic thing in the whole wide world, because on the one hand you're using a fancy font and then the other font is just really basic. Like, Inter would have been a better choice at this point, unless it is Inter, in which case it seems like Arial to me for some reason. Again, I think the typography needs a little bit of a work to be done. I have no idea why it was just very gamey at the top and then very basic at the bottom. I have no idea what's going on at this point, so we are still exploring. I think the major Achilles heel for this site is going to be the fact that on the one hand you have this game experience which pushes the user into a place where you have to force yourself to feel like this is going to be a fun gaming experience, but as soon as you click on anything, you get bombarded with so much text that you don't want to do anything at all. So I think you could have struck a balance, and that was just not there, which is why I think I'm just really confused at how to even proceed with this site. This is so weird. Wow, you have some really cool animations going. Cool animations in any case. What's going on? Wow, this is seeming to be a cool ad for a juice soda can, but the way they've done it is super weird to me still. This could have been a much better hero section, but also they tried to be innovative, and I can kind of appreciate that. I'm going to give this site a 6 out of 10. What do you guys think we should do with it? Because here's the weird thing. I have no idea what even happened, and I've already seen the entire site. You had all of these weird images at the top when you had all of these super cool animations happening, which set up my expectations. In fact, I was coming from a world of reading text on screens. It set up my expectations to expect gaming, like anyone would expect gaming at this point. And then when that was not met, or when it was met with a bunch of text, especially because some of these targets don't even work, you can't even click on some of these. But then when you go ahead and click on some of these elements, why are you not clicking? This is so weird. Some elements can be clicked, some elements can't be clicked, which is the reason I've taken off 4 points. But then when you can actually click on some elements, which happens rarely, you get bombarded with a ton of text with not enough highlights. And the font family Arial, the only fancy thing you did is with the cool game font, which wasn't matched all the way through. It wasn't consistent. It just was kind of forced. Like, you could have used 3 different fonts. The first could have been the gaming font with which you use the word enter, but now you just added the word Arial, and you just added the whole package of Arial, and then you added the whole weird vibe where this is just italicized Arial and even more Arial, and the font sizes aren't even different. Like, you could have at least made this font smaller and you could have highlighted some important text, but I feel like this is just the biggest essay of my school life ever, especially because you try to be fancy, you try to make these pluses a little bit tilted, a little bit italicized. This is so weird, you guys. I have no idea what's going on this site. When you see this scepter that's basically hijacking our cursor right now, it's weird and it's circular and it reminds me of the whole hypnotic wheel, which is exactly what this site is. I am still unclear about what is going on this entire site. This guy is changing his costume from a monkey to a tiger, and I don't think that should be happening. You can't even click on the rooster, and it's actually an image of a rooster, which you find out after you click on it. Wow, you can actually reveal monsters when you click on what is that? what is going on over here? This is so weird. This is spinning purple, green, red. What is this? Is this mythology, Chinese? What is this? I don't mean to be offensive. I just don't know what's going on. Can anyone tell me what's going on? This is unbelievable. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to give this a couple of minutes because we will be able to reveal unhinged things from out of this. What's going on? Shop King, what was that? I wasn't even able to read it. This is so quick. I want to revive the number that I gave it from a 6 out of 10 to a minus 60 out of 10, and I know it is a joke, that whole minus 60, and I intend for it to be that because this is not the site that I ever thought it was going to be. First I thought it was going to be a game, then it was going to be a directional, but as soon as I saw this purple thing spin into this pink green train your minds, I didn't want the text side go away. As soon as I saw this lady spin, as soon as I saw it, I knew the number was minus 60. I have to change that number to a minus 60 because what's going on over here? This is so weird. This is unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. I have no idea what's going on. This rooster jumps, ladies and gentlemen. Rooster dragon hybrid actually jumps. And this circle, I will be doing this whole circular thing until the end of time. This is what's convincing me to do a minus 60. This is the most ridiculous sight I've ever seen, and I'm trying to be open-minded here. The tiger was changing his dress into a monkey, which was originally a monkey but somehow became a tiger. And I'm pretty sure everyone in real life who is hearing me talk about this and not seeing the actual video believes in their heart that I am going crazy, because no structure, nothing. Either you bombard us with bad text with no font considerations at all, or font hierarchy considerations at all, or you bombard us with this madness. It could have been nice to receive like tooltip instructions on what was going on, especially since I came into this site receptive of anything and everything that I could have got. Wow, these are jingling dolls from I don't even know where. I don't want to sound offensive. And you have your fountain of joy soda. Blog, fill your heart. I don't know if the blog is just as exciting in terms of madness. Fill your heart. Look at that. Arial blog. Congratulations to us. Wow. Was this a blog or is this the shop? Alright, this seems to be a blog. This is so confusing. I'm just going to click on one of these. No idea what's going on at all. Are we going to see a game with this lady changing her dress from a tiger to a monkey? I don't think we are. And I think this is all plain and this is all very boring. I know that there's some interesting stuff in this site, and I know if I wanted to, I could have read this entire thing. But I'm just going to go back, especially because a part of me, in my heart, still believes there was stuff on the site that needed exploring. I just have to see what was going on there. Like, I just have to see at this point. Enter. What even happened there? Let's just see it one last time. Maybe we see. Welcome, the cursor will guide you on the journey. Use it to interact with objects within the temple and discover hidden meanings. To navigate, scroll or use talismans to travel between rooms. If you find yourself lost, always follow the monkey. Okay, this is new information to me because I seem to not read anything at all. Wow. Weird, Veera. Now, we're just clicking on things to see when you get confused, you need to follow the monkey. I want to follow the monkey. Wow, what's going on? Is this an ad for a soda, or is this just complete madness? Because I would want to see what happens when you click on these elements. I hope this guy does something fun. Look at him. He's so happy. Look at him. He's so happy, and he's dancing, and he's a skeleton, and this is so weird. Unbelievable. Look at them. They're all jumping and they're all having a ton of fun. This is insane. It's certainly the most insane thing I've ever seen in the world of the web, fountainofyouth.com. Wow. Does anyone have anything to say? Will the slippers fly and hit the monkey in his face? I would pay to see that. This is so weird. Look at him, a snake ghost. I thought it was an ice cream cone for some reason. It's a snake ghost coming out of a monk's body. What is that? What the god is going on? This is insane. What even is happening? The rooster walks, ladies and gentlemen. The rooster walks, and I hope he walks out of the screen into my home from this side of the screen. No, it won't. This is so weird. Wow, can you click on these? I don't think you can. This is made of images. Info, follow the monkey. I don't want to follow the monkey because I know for a fact it will lead me to another huge red box, which leads to even more text in the font Arial and no consideration to font hierarchies. Utter madness. Utter and complete madness. Unbelievable. Minus 60 out of 10, the most justified rating I've ever given. And I tend to be a rational person. But that whole spinny cut off head removed all rationality for me. Not irrationality, rationality. What is this scroll? What the hell does it even do? I am a little bit concerned on what this tea kettle does. Maybe it'll hit the monkey on his head. I think I want to see that happen. You again you'll be I don't want to click on this because I know I'll be guided to some weird blog of more text which I don't want to read, especially now that all of this fun stuff is happening. You got those picture books at your childhood where you had all these images on one side which were also telling the story, and you had text on the one hand which was also telling the story, and even though the images were kind of confusing, all you wanted to do was look at those images and not look at the text. That is me now, because they've separated the text and images on opposite ends of the table, which is bad, because you, at the end of the day, you want to have all of your media and all of your text and all of those different elements on a site integrated as one. That's not happening. So that it's just freaking me out all the way this is all structured. Does anyone have anything snarky to say about this site, or is it just me? Because if it is just me, I'm fine with that, because I've seen the things that I have seen. Rewind this video to see the things that I've seen on this site today. I will never be able to unsee them, and that's coming from a person who forgets things often. So I think this is going to be the stuff of nightmares tonight. What does this head do? Does this go? Wow, the head has a mustache. How scary! Oh my! What's that? What the hell is that? The head has two heads, and both of them have mustaches. This is so weird. Unbelievable. 2 heads. 2. This is what nightmares are made of. The whole there's a song that goes, this is what dreams are made of. This is what nightmares are made of. I'm a bad singer when I sing this song. Wow, there is a gong as well. I want to see his face a third time. I'm pretty sure I shouldn't, but I still want to. Again, this just fades out. And the House of Horrors is over. I know this is kind of inspired by the whole Chinese statue art thing, and it's an ad for a fountain of youth coconut water. I couldn't read that entire thing. I was trying to make it up on the spot. Coconut water led by a monkey mascot in a universe where there are many sorts of evil villains. For example, snake climbing out of a monk's body. I will show it to you. I'm not kidding at this point. Don't even think I am. Don't you dare think I'm kidding. I used to forget stuff, when did this appear? This wasn't there. Rewind the video and see this wasn't there. Was it there? Because if that was the case, then I'm the one with amnesia. This wasn't there. They have taken the absolute ability to take things and sort of do stuff on the internet, and they've messed with it on a very bad level. This is pathological. I am driven nuts by the way this is. What is that? Shaky, zoomy. Wow, this is so weird. I don't want to click on the monkey because I know I'll have to go and read some text. Anyways, this is so. What is this? What is this freaky lantern? What's going on over here? Can someone understand or explain what this freaky lantern does? I have no idea at this point. It lights up even more. Applies a brightness filter to it. Go away, freaky lantern. It's not going away. I think it's stuck the way it is. Anyways, my point today was, we saw a site where snakes come out of any one of the random 4 monks' head, and then we had this madness, whatever the hell this is. I don't even want to call it anything at this point. You have a monkey that changes its clothes into a leopard or a tiger. You have skeletons doing weird dances. You have the fountain of youth soda right here, or coconut water in this case. You have random wind chimes, and you have what do these two do? I don't think they do anything. They just tell you to continue. What do these do even? So anyways, we saw some weird things today. You have all of these sections, and you have all of these reminders of sections, I guess. You have these weird libraries, and then I also saw honorable mention to the 2 heads that we saw. This one, we have this going on here for some reason. Again, this is very, very creepy, very, very freaky. It hits you like a jump scare after 2 seconds, which is insane. I know I have been rambling about whatever this site is for the last like 10 minutes, and I should end the stream at this point, but I'm not going to. Wow, the site spins when you click on the weird green man, and then something happens when you click on this, and then something happens when you click on this. This is so weird, and it just went away, and it's going to come back and give us even more horrors. This is the weirdest site I've ever seen, and because it is the weirdest site I've ever seen, I will rate it a -60 out of 10, and I will pray for my soul, because I've seen the stuff of nightmares now. For the next 10 days, the nightmares that I have are going to be parts of this site. Did you know the rooster cock actually flies and walks? There was a cock that used to be here, and the rooster kind of went away, which is insane, and I have no idea what was going on anymore. This is, and there's a lamp as well. Can't wait to see what that holds. Wow, this is like the weirdest thing in the whole world. Anyways, that, ladies and gentlemen, was the -60 out of 10 weirdest site. This could have been a perfect header, and then they chose to use it as a footer, which is the ultimate joke. This has been an insane stream, completely insane stream, and by far like the weirdest stream I've ever done in my entire life. I hope you liked what we did today, because I certainly had my weird set of doubts about it. I have no idea what's going to happen at this point. Wow, the camera just went away. I'm trying to make things smaller. I'm trying to make this work. Ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the most awesome UI design streams we've ever done, because everything was starting nice, and then we had a perfect middle, and then things ended randomly with madness the way they need to. I think this was a successful stream, because the things we saw we could never unsee. I hope you learned something. I hope you keep on designing. I will see you tomorrow, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time, or 3:30 p.m. GMT, depending on wherever you're at. And good night. Have a blessed night. Please don't